Back in the States, actor Yul Brynner died early this morning of cancer at the age of 65. Brian Doble reports.
I really wanted to make a commercial when I discovered that I was that sick.
In the public's memory, Yul Brynner always appears with an unmistakable image. His signature shiny bald head, an icy demeanor exuding authority, and a piercing gaze capable of subduing anyone. Yet behind that dazzling facade existed a truth few had ever heard. Yul was homosexual, and his life was woven from secret romances, hidden away in the shadows. Before his death, Brynner unexpectedly revealed a list of famous homosexual stars in Hollywood with whom he had quietly had relationships. Among them were those who had nearly risked an entire marriage to be with him. Those whose soulmates, once close, suddenly turned cold and distant. And those who, driven by ambition, abandoned him, leaving behind a heart full of scars. So who were they? And why did it take until the very end of his life for Yul Brynner to choose to reveal everything? Before delving into the list of same-sex romances, let us try to turn back the hands of time and return to the starting point of a young migrant boy who would later shine brilliantly on the stage. In 1920, in the city of Vladivostok, then part of the former Soviet Union, a child was born with his first cries echoing into the world. His name sounded somewhat unfamiliar to the Western ear. Yuli Borisovich Brynner. Flowing through the veins of this boy was a blend of diverse cultural heritage. His father was Russian, with Mongolian ancestry, while his mother was a Russian woman. Life's upheavals came one after another. The Bolshevik Revolution of 1917 had plunged Russia into fire and chaos, turning Vladivostok into a blazing battlefield. Yet the pain did not end there. One day, Yul's father left, following a younger lover. By 1927, his mother had taken him across borders, fleeing to Harbin. It was in this new land that Yul first encountered the world of art. He learned to play the guitar from wandering street musicians and sang Russian folk songs with a tender voice. At night, Yul would secretly sneak out of the house, slipping into an old theater to watch Chekhov's plays. On the worn wooden seats, he dreamed of a glittering stage where bright lights would illuminate him and free him from the confined life he knew. By 1933, war once again broke out. Yul and his mother were forced to leave everything behind. This time, the train carried them to Paris, the city of light of Europe. Paris in the 1930s was like a whirlwind of chaotic enchantment. In Montmartre, the Russian community had transformed cafes into familiar homes. Here, Yul quickly became absorbed in a vibrant world, where jazz music from across the Atlantic mingled with hoarse laughter from noisy bars. In Paris, Yul began a new journey. He joined the Cirque de Hiver, soaring on the high bars, flying through dazzling neon lights, amidst the pounding of drums and the thunderous applause of thousands of spectators. However, in 1937, at the age of just 17, a terrible accident struck unexpectedly. In a single moment of carelessness, Yul fell from a dangerous height onto the circus floor. The terrifying sound of breaking bones echoed, and the audience screamed in shock. When he awoke, he found himself lying in a hospital bed, his legs encased in casts, his back throbbing with sharp pain. For nearly a year afterward, 4 stark white walls became his entire world. To escape both physical pain and isolation, Yul turned to opium and other stimulants. Before long, this habit turned him into an addict, pulling him ever deeper into darkness. Amid these drifting days, he discovered a path to Hollywood, throwing himself into stage performances in search of life's meaning. On this journey, Yul experienced countless passionate but tearful love affairs with many top stars. 1. Marlon Brando. From Soulmate to separation by the war of ego. Marlon Brando, the immortal icon of The Godfather, never shied away from speaking openly about his private life. In a 1976 interview, he candidly admitted, "Being gay has now become a trend." In Hollywood, the relationship between Brando and Yul Brynner is still remembered as an unforgettable backstage anecdote. The two had worked together on the film Morituri, 1965. On screen, just a single glance between them was enough to ignite a strong chemical reaction, yet off camera, the affection they felt for each other ran even deeper. Their first meeting took place on the set in San Diego. By then, Brando had already become a major star, while Yul exuded a commanding presence mixed with a hint of nonchalance. The days spent filming at sea gradually became an opportunity for them to grow closer. Evenings at the Hotel del Coronado, accompanied by alcohol and cigarette smoke, were filled with endless debates about politics, civil rights, and the hidden wounds within their souls. Brando once called Yul his soulmate, a rare tribute in his life. However, this love ultimately could not escape the timeless rule. It burned brightly, then faded away. The bond between them slowly cracked as Brando grew irritated with Yul's controlling nature, while Yul became frustrated with Brando's unpredictable temperament, especially when he would vanish only to reappear beside glamorous women. The peak of their conflict came during a fiery argument right on the film set. They raised their voices to the point that the entire crew had to pause filming. Brando threw the script onto the floor, while Yul stormed outside for a cigarette, refusing to return. After that confrontation, their looks toward each other turned cold. Conversations were replaced with perfunctory nods. When the film wrapped, the two quietly parted ways. That love dissipated, like a ship silently leaving the harbor. No horns, no lights, leaving behind only the lingering echoes of days gone by. If Marlon Brando carved a challenging void within Yul Brynner, then conversely, another person would sweep Brando into a whirlwind of addictive passion and nightmares that haunted him throughout his life. 2. Paul Newman. A love in the shadows that once shook a marriage. Among the mysterious and intriguing relationships in Yul Brynner's life, the name Paul Newman certainly cannot be overlooked. An immortal symbol of masculinity in Hollywood cinema. In 1958, fate brought them together at a dazzling, star-studded party in Beverly Hills, an event organized by Joanne Woodward, Newman's legal wife. At that time, Yul was in the midst of filming The Brothers Karamazov. Amid the chime of crystal glasses and the sparkling reflections of candlelight, their eyes accidentally met. and that fleeting glance unexpectedly sparked a connection neither of them anticipated. This secret love affair lasted for several years. They often met clandestinely at a quiet farm in Connecticut. Surrounded by the heavy scent of damp wood and the serene breath of the countryside, they would sip wine together while exchanging thoughts about the craft of acting and the emotional wounds in their hearts that neither had ever dared to admit. Yet, this was not a story of romance. Their closeness unintentionally deepened the cracks in Newman's marriage. Joanne, despite her efforts to maintain a calm exterior, could not conceal the silent agony bleeding inside her. There were nights when Newman returned home, and she would quietly sit in the kitchen, gripping her glass of wine tightly, her eyes filled with a wordless, despairing sorrow. Then, on one occasion, the pressure of suppressed emotions overwhelmed Joanne, and she broke down in tears. When Newman entered the room, she looked straight into his eyes, her voice trembling. "I've lost you, haven't I?" Newman did not respond, only bowed his head in silence, and at that moment, the first tear slid down Joanne's cheek. Although Newman was intensely drawn to Yul, he could not bear to see his wife immersed in suffering. He did not want the years of family happiness he had painstakingly built to fall apart. Ultimately, he chose to withdraw quietly, without a single explanation. Yul was left with a burning sense of regret, realizing that some loves, no matter how passionate, are never meant to be held. The affair with Paul Newman ended as a deep, searing wound in Yul's soul. Yet it was only the opening chapter of other complex relationships that would follow in his life. 3. Hurd Hatfield, united by a shared dream, yet torn apart by ambition. Among the romances that had the most profound impact on Yul Brynner's life, one cannot overlook his relationship with Hurd Hatfield, the handsome actor renowned for his leading role in The Picture of Dorian Gray, 1945. Ironically, the very work of Oscar Wilde, which tells the story of a young man corrupted by desire, seemed to mirror the fate of their relationship. Their first encounter took place in 1941 at Sardi's, a restaurant beloved by Broadway theater circles. At that time, both Yul and Hurd were students of the great acting master Michael Chekhov. Amid the bustling atmosphere, filled with laughter, clinking cutlery, and lively chatter, their eyes unexpectedly met, as if an invisible thread had drawn their kindred spirits together. Their affection blossomed quietly, nurtured through discreet dates at Hatfield's apartment in Greenwich Village. In a room filled with novels and adorned with countless art paintings, they immersed themselves together in Wilde's literature, sharing their longing to live authentically in a society still rife with prejudice. For Yul, Hatfield was nothing less than a steadfast anchor, helping him gradually emerge from the shadows of the addiction that had haunted him since his days in Paris. They both nurtured the same dream that one day they would make a name for themselves in Hollywood. Yet, as with many romances among artists of that era, their relationship soon fractured. When the first glimmers of fame began to shine, Hurd allowed ambition to dictate his actions, ready to sacrifice love in pursuit of career opportunities, leaving Yul with a heart shattered by a love left unfinished. Around the same time, Yul's yearning for freedom and rebellious spirit manifested in another bold decision. In 1942, he agreed to pose for a series of nude photographs taken by George Platt Lynes at a studio in Manhattan. These photographs, which have survived to this day, became vivid evidence of his courage to defy every conventional mold. If Hurd Hatfield left Yul Brynner with a deep wound caused by betrayal, another person who would enter his life later would bring an obsessive bond that haunted him persistently throughout his entire existence. 4. Jean Cocteau. A tragic first love. Entwined with addiction and jealousy. During his years living in Paris, in the Pigalle district, a place concealing the shadowy rooms where opium was smoked, Yul Brynner stepped into a world that was both enchanting and perilous. It was a haunt of bohemian artists, individuals seeking to escape reality and searching for inspiration amidst the swirling, hazy smoke. It was there that he met Jean Cocteau, the extraordinary French artist. They were introduced through a mutual friend while Cocteau was pouring his heart and soul into finding inspiration for his film La Belle et la Bête, Beauty and the Beast. 31 years Yul's senior, Cocteau saw the young man not only as a muse, but also as a mentor, guiding Yul into the elite circles of Parisian society. Through this relationship, Yul was introduced to Pablo Picasso at his studio on Rue des Grands Augustins, where the bold, cubist strokes were transforming the face of world art. On late nights in the Palais Royal apartment, they immersed themselves in conversations about art and love, exchanging letters full of poetry, before wandering together to the Riviera coast, where the sunlight and the salty tang of the sea merged with the burning vitality of youth. Yet their love was far from a fairy tale. Yul's addiction and Cocteau's unpredictable temperament turned their relationship into a fierce whirlwind of passion, jealousy, and repeated separations. Ultimately, when Yul had to enter a rehabilitation center, everything collapsed. Still, the time he spent with Cocteau left indelible marks in Yul's memory, while also carving a deep wound. The feeling of solitude suppressed within a conservative French society, where homosexuality was still regarded as an incurable illness. But the story did not end there. Yul moved into another relationship, one that began with brilliant dreams, only to end in cold betrayal, driven by ambition. 5. Manuel Puig. A fleeting encounter, yet a lifelong obsession. Paris in 1960, with its incessant drenching rains, cast a hazy, melancholic veil over the city. At that moment, Manuel Puig, the Argentine writer, was deeply immersed in a new screenplay draft, entirely unaware that fate was about to lead him to a brief encounter powerful enough to haunt the rest of his life. In his memoirs, Puig recalls that afternoon, the Saint-Germain-des-Prés café glowing warmly under the soft yellow lights, spilling their glow onto the worn wooden tables. The smoke from cigarettes mingled with the dampness outside the fogged-up window panes, creating a vague, almost magical atmosphere. Jean Cocteau, Yul's close friend, was the bridge that brought these two seemingly unrelated individuals together. In just a few short hours, an invisible bond had already formed. They sat there until dawn, the coffee in front of them long gone cold. Both were completely absorbed in endless conversations about Latin American literature, about cinema, about lives abandoned and shunned by society. Puig was mesmerized by Yul's deep, dark eyes, a gaze at once gentle and icy, as if holding thousands of untold stories. And every time Yul smiled faintly, Puig felt as though he were touching a dazzling world forever barred from him, a world he could never enter. Then Puig suddenly realized that he had given his affection to a man he could never keep. Yul left the cafe to the distant rumble of thunder, leaving Puig behind under the fading yellow lights. In his memoirs, Puig wrote, "Yul was the mysterious man who once stirred my deepest emotions. He was like a perfect piece of music that constricts the heart, sounding only once before vanishing completely. That connection ended as abruptly as it had begun." Yet in Puig's memory, Yul remained an eternal, haunting presence, leaving behind the lingering scent of tobacco and the echoes of unfinished stories, carving a void that time could never fill. Perhaps it took several decades, as those involved gradually passed from this world, for Yul Brynner to finally dare to slightly open the door to that past. But the real reason he waited until this moment to speak remains a secret that has never been revealed. Why did it take Yul Brynner so long to finally reveal these things? In Hollywood, during the 1950s and 1960s, homosexuality was considered an absolute taboo for anyone pursuing a career in the entertainment industry. Just a single, ambiguous photograph or a rumor whispered backstage could shatter the spotlight surrounding a star overnight. At that time, film studios wielded nearly absolute power, ready to crush any celebrity deemed different in order to protect the wholesome family image they were selling to the public. Behind the glittering lights lay a complex system of binding contracts, strict silence agreements, and carefully staged photo sessions with actors of the opposite sex, all designed to conceal private lives. But Hollywood was not the only pressure Brynner had to endure. He also lived under the shadow of the political witch hunts initiated by Senator Joseph McCarthy, a nightmare that engulfed America from the late 1940s to the mid-1950s. This campaign was originally intended to root out communist infiltrators within the government and the entertainment industry. But it soon escalated into a wide-ranging purge, targeting anyone considered unconventional. Parallel to the Red Scare, the fear of communism was a lesser-known yet equally harsh campaign. The Lavender Scare. It specifically targeted the LGBTQ community, fueled by the prejudice that homosexuals were a national security risk because they could be blackmailed or bribed by foreign powers. At the height of this crisis, thousands of federal employees were forced to resign or were dismissed merely on suspicion of their sexual orientation. Hollywood at that time resembled a stage set for fear. The House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, continuously summoned actors, screenwriters, and directors to testify. Many were blacklisted, a silent yet absolute sentence that left them virtually no path to survive in the industry. And if a single star was labeled as having a deviant sexual life, that rumor alone could prompt studios to immediately terminate contracts, regardless of the talent or box office revenue they generated. For Brynner, Even a single photograph taken with a suspected individual or a casual rumor reaching the backstage could be treated as evidence before the committee. In such a stifling atmosphere, he was forced to construct a flawless public image, masculine, strong, and safe, under the scrutinizing eyes of the public. Therefore, Brynner chose silence for decades. He buried a part of his true self as if it were a state secret, solely to preserve the spotlight on stage. Only later, when the world gradually became less harsh toward the gay community, did he find the courage to look back and confront himself honestly. Yet, even though he had carefully maintained his image, not everything unfolded according to the script that Brynner had so long hoped for. A glorious career and a fragmented romance with women. In 1939, when World War II erupted, Europe quickly descended into a sea of fire and chaos. Yul, along with his mother, was forced to leave their home and return to China in search of refuge from the father who had abandoned them. Yet, instead of a reunion, he was confronted with an unexpected truth. Katerina Kornikova, his father's former lover, had now become his stepmother. Katerina was a stunning diva, radiating the mesmerizing aura of classical Russian theater. She had been trained under the guidance of Michael Chekhov, a master of the performing arts who had coached Marilyn Monroe and Clint Eastwood, and who fully inherited the essence of the Stanislavski method, emphasizing the power of inner emotion. Under Katerina's mentorship, Yul became like a block of clay, meticulously sculpted. A resonant, deep voice, like brass trumpets, echoing through a grand theater. Gestures that were powerful and decisive, akin to the stance of a warrior. A free-flowing improvisational ability, reminiscent of a street performer. And a body language that was both commanding and seductive, punctuated by unexpected acrobatic movements that captivated audiences completely. With such a solid foundation, by the late 1940s, Yul left Europe armed with a priceless letter of recommendation from Michael Chekhov himself, a passport that would open the doors to the promised land of Hollywood. From the dazzling Broadway lights of New York to the golden domes of MGM Studios in Los Angeles, he arrived precisely in the post-war era, a time of population boom, economic recovery, and a flourishing of both theater and cinema. In New York, Yul's journey to conquer the land of stars began with singing nights at lively nightclubs like the Copacabana Club. There, the saxophone echoed through smoke-filled air. The audience halls shimmered with bright lights, and behind the scenes, it was a gathering place for wandering artists. It was in this vibrant atmosphere that in 1941, destiny knocked once more when Yul met Marlene Dietrich, the German-born film legend, a woman nearly 2 decades his senior, yet capable of silencing the entire room with her husky voice and enchanting beauty. Their romance lasted a full decade, igniting in long nights at luxurious hotels such as the Waldorf Astoria. There, Dietrich taught Yul how to use makeup so that stage lighting highlighted every feature, instructed him to stand before a mirror to find his dead angles and turn them into strengths. As a bisexual icon of 1920s Berlin, Marlene also imparted to him the survival secrets of the entertainment world, creating small scandals to attract tabloid attention, negotiating hard contracts with moguls like Louis B. Mayer, MGM, or Darryl F. Zanuck, the 20th Century Fox, and maintaining a layer of mystery by avoiding in-depth interviews. Yet behind this glamorous aura, Yul gradually explored his own bisexual instincts through secret same-sex relationships. The true turning point in his career came when Yul took on the role of King Mongkut of Siam in the musical The King and I, Broadway, 1951. From his very first appearance, his shaved head shattered every Hollywood masculine stereotype of the time. His resonant, deep voice, majestic gestures tinged with humor, and a demeanor that was half monarch, half philosopher, transformed King Mongkut into a stage legend. This role earned Yul a Tony Award in 1952, and later, when the film adaptation premiered in 1956, he won the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1957. Throughout his life, he was almost inseparably tied to this role, performing it over 4,600 times on stage, an unprecedented record that etched the image of the bald king into the memories of generations of audiences. The same year The King and I premiered on the silver screen, Brynner caused another stir by portraying Pharaoh Ramses II in Cecil B. DeMille's epic The Ten Commandments. Clad in dazzling golden armor and with piercing eyes, he depicted a Ramses who was both powerful and ruthless, confronting Moses, Charlton Heston, with unyielding intensity. The film became one of the highest-grossing works of the 1950s and further cemented Yul's image as the emblem of the Eastern man, enigmatic, dangerous, and commanding. Beyond the spotlight of theater and film, Yul Brynner's private life was equally dramatic. He married 4 times and had 5 children. Alongside his career, he served as a UNHCR ambassador, actively helping Vietnamese refugees and those from many other countries. In 1985, he passed away at the age of 65 from lung cancer, leaving behind a vast artistic legacy, as well as an anti-smoking message he personally recorded before his death. Yet behind the dazzling aura and the immortal image of the bald king, Yul Brynner remained a man carrying numerous secrets, a figure pressed into the hidden corners of his era, not easily revealed. Yul Brynner, both a victim of his era and a hero who dared to live authentically. Yul Brynner carried within him a unique paradox. He was at once a victim of his times and a hero who dared to live truthfully as himself. Born into a society that regarded homosexuality as a sin, a secret capable of obliterating both career and life, Yul had to endure hidden love affairs along with a pain that could never be openly acknowledged. These wounds were not only etched deeply into his soul, but also left a heavy mark on his family, where loved ones silently bore the weight of what was never spoken aloud. Yet it was precisely his quiet resilience, though hidden behind a mysterious exterior, that paved the way for future generations to live authentically and gradually gain social acceptance. Yul stands as clear proof that a person can confront harsh prejudices while shining brilliantly on stage and on screen, leaving behind a legacy that transcends all boundaries of gender and societal norms. That legacy goes far beyond iconic roles or his charismatic presence. He was also a humanitarian, dedicating his heart and energy to helping refugees. Yul's life, filled with contradictions and untold shadows, still shines as a powerful testament to the courage of living truthfully, even when the world is not yet ready to embrace it. If this story leaves even a small impression on you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel to continue accompanying us on future journeys. Because beyond the dazzling stage lights and resounding applause, a legend is also forged from silent suffering, quiet battles courageously overcome, secrets that perhaps the whole world has never known.